The town of Dixmude is located to the northeast of Ypres, halfway between Ypres and the English Channel, and lays on the river Yser that flows into the North Sea. If you look at the middle photo, you'll see the river flowing north from Dixmude. The thing to note here is how flat the surrounding land is. It's like the Lincolnshire and Cambridgeshire Fens in the UK. After the Germans were halted at the Marne, they continued their attempt to go north of Ypres, the race to the sea. The Belgian defenders made a decision to open the sluice gates at Nieuwpoort so as to allow the tidal seawater to enter the flat reclaimed land between the banks of the Yser River and the Nieuwpoort-Dixmude railway line. By deliberately flooding this land, it was hoped that the German plans for a breakthrough here would be stopped. A complicated procedure was planned to open the gates of the system of locks at Nieuwpoort. The gates would be opened in conjunction with the timing of the tides and the action of the wind. Over 20 drainage culverts through the railway embankment were blocked up, and the preparation for the deliberate flooding was begun from the 21st of October. At high water on the evening of the 28th of October, the Belgian engineers and lock keepers opened the locks at Nieuwpoort. This allowed the sea to inundate the land between the western banks of the Yser and the embankment of the railway. In spite of the rising water levels, the Germans continued to make attacks on the Belgian line, but by the 31st of October 1914, the Battle of the Yser, the possibility of any further German advances were over. This was one of the most important events in the early part of the war. You can see the result of the flooding in the other photos. During the first months of the war, the Germans attempted to encircle the British, French and Belgian armies by going to the north, the so-called race to the sea. When the Belgians flooded the Yser River to the north of Ypres, this placed new emphasis on the strategic position of Ypres. Initially, the British and French controlled the Ypres salient, the higher ground, to the east of Ypres. But because of superior German forces, the Allies lost this and were forced to defend land lower and nearer to Ypres. This period between the 31st of October and the 22nd of November is known as the First Ypres. When you're in the graveyard, you need to look for evidence of the destruction of Zillebeke. Secondly, there are a number of graves in the churchyard. What do these suggest about the British Army at the beginning of the war? Tynecott Cemetery is the largest Commonwealth cemetery in the world and commemorates those who fell at the Third Battle of Ypres, known as Passchendaele, which lasted from the 31st of July until the 6th of November 1917. This battle was preceded by the successful Battle of Messines Ridge to the south of the Ypres salient in June 1917, best known because 19 huge mines were exploded. General Haig hoped to continue this success and take the northern part of the salient, which included the village of Passchendaele. However, as with the Somme, the Germans knew that an attack was imminent. After 2 weeks' bombardment with over 2.5 million shells. Once again, the Germans remained in their dugouts, and when the bombardment was over, came out to repel the Allies. This also coincided with the worst rains for 30 years, which combined with the destruction of the drainage system, turned the battlefield into a quagmire. Many hundreds of men drowned in the mud. Over the weeks of the battle, there were numerous smaller battles to take specific objectives, with what remained of Passchendaele, which was only 5 miles from the original British front lines, being taken on the 6th of November. Over the 3 months of the battle, 325,000 Allied and 260,000 German casualties had done little more than make the bump of the salient a little larger. You are now in the Memorial Museum at Passchendaele. Like all museums, they contain a lot of information. You need to select the information that adds to the narrative of your soldier. It doesn't matter that the museum is about fighting round Ypres in 1917. You are just looking for information about the nature of warfare in the First World War. As you're here, you can also think about the suitability of this kind of museum for the students that you will teach. This is a map of the area of the Somme battle. It shows the 15-mile British front line on the 1st of July 1916 in red, and the advance over the 141 days that the battle lasted, up until the 19th of November. Don't forget that the Battle of the Somme was a joint Anglo-French attack with the French front south of the River Somme. It's important to make the point also that British includes troops from many parts of the Empire: Australia, Bermuda, Canada, India, Newfoundland, New Zealand, South Africa and Southern Rhodesia. The places we will visit are circled in yellow: La Bosselle, Pozières, Thiepval, Beaumont-Hamel and Serre. Bapaume was controlled by Germany and Albert by the British, and the blue cross marks the furthest advance of the British on the Bapaume-Albert road. The first thing you have to do is to understand the site. This map shows the boundary of Newfoundland Park in black, the British front line in red and the German front line in blue. The numbers refer to information boards located round the site. You're going to be given quite a lot of time here, so I suggest you work round the site to understand the geography of the battlefield and collect material that you can use to tell the story of the Newfoundland Regiment in the context of the first day of the Battle of the Somme. On the next page, there is a very good animation. This short animation shows what happened to the Newfoundland Regiment on the first day of the Battle of the Somme. Here you can see the River Anker and the railway that we crossed on our way to Beaumont-Hamel. The land controlled by Germany is in blue and the British in brown. The green between the two is no man's land. We now close in on the area of Newfoundland Park. At 7:20, Hawthorne Mine, just to the north of the park, was detonated with the other mines along the front. At 7:35, British troops went over the top from the trenches to be met by a hail of bullets from German machine guns. At 8:45, the Newfoundlanders, who were in the reserve trenches along St John's Road, some 230 metres behind, moved forwards over the top of the trenches because they were clogged up with the dead and injured from the previous advance. They too were met with a hail of bullets. Many never even reached the British barbed wire or British front line. Of the 780 Newfoundlanders who went over the top, only about 110 survived unscathed, of whom only 68 were available for roll call the following morning. When you're in France and Belgium, you will see lots of different memorials, examples of the way we remember the dead of the First World War. You will see the last post ceremony at the Menin Gate. Find examples of memorials during your visit. How and why do we remember?